Hi, everyone. This is Samantha Russell from 20 over 10. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I know we're a couple minutes before we're getting started, but I wanted to go ahead and launch the presentation so that people can get signed in. Also, we're going to be launching a poll that we'd like for everyone to just take a minute to answer, and it'll give us a good baseline for where everybody's coming at the presentation from. So you should see it up on your screen. You can go ahead and launch it. Answer the question, and we'll just, take a minute for those results to come in. Additionally, just a couple other things. There are both a Q&A panel and a chat panel today. So the Q&A panel is direct to your panelists. So if there's a question you want to ask that you want to ask the panelists directly, myself included, you would use that. If you want to just put something out there for everyone in our community today to be able to see or learn more about, that's where you would use the chat box. Just to make sure everyone can hear me loud and clear, if you wouldn't mind in the chat box, maybe letting us know where you're joining from today and that everything sounds and looks good. You can see me, you can hear me, and you can see my screen okay. I am joining from State College, Pennsylvania. Not sure if we have any Penn State fans out there, but that's where my office is located. And then on the line as well, muted right now, we have Dan Johnson, who will be our guest speaker joining us today, and he is in Akron, Ohio. And then we also have Amanda Larson from my team, who is in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I'd love to hear where you all are from, and let's see, we got some, great. So everyone says they can hear, okay, we got Atlanta, Granby, Connecticut, Omaha, awesome, Seattle, Washington, Detroit, got people from all over, this is wonderful. I hope some of you are having better weather than we are here in the Northeast with all this rain. But it's the top of the hour, great. So it's 3 o'clock, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone again for joining us today. Let me just move on to the next slide as we continue. If you're just coming in, please go ahead and answer that poll while we go over a couple housekeeping items. So the number one question we always get asked, will this be recorded in case I need to leave? Yes, this is being recorded. You will get a link to view the entire presentation, as well as a copy of all of the slides with all of the links and everything tomorrow. Again, feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation if it's applicable in that moment and we want to go ahead and address it, then we will. Otherwise, we'll answer at the end. And thank you again for answering our poll. So the question we asked was, have you ever gotten any clients through digital marketing efforts? So 32% have said no, 22% said no, but I haven't tried, and 33% said only 1 or 2. And then 12% of you have received more than 5 clients this way. So thank you everyone for answering. That helps us, kind of get a sense of where everyone is at. So a really good majority of you have either gotten none or only 1 or 2. So I think this will be really informative for you all today to hear truly how the one advisor we have joining us, Dan Johnson, is doing it. And you can use some of his methods, hopefully, to find your own success. So I'm going to end that poll. And all right. So just to give you a little bit more background information, again, I'm Samantha Russell. I'm the Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer here at 20 over 10. I recognize some of the names in the chat box as 20 over 10 clients, but for those of you that don't currently use 20 over 10, our platform is a digital marketing and website development tool that you can use to both create and manage your website. And as financial advisors, we keep you all compliant with all of our archiving and compliance oversight tools that your broker-dealer can also use if you're with a broker-dealer, or you yourself can use if you're an independent RIA. Our guest speaker that I'm so excited to have joining us here today is Dan Johnson. And Dan is the founder and the advisor behind Forward Thinking Wealth Management, which is a financial advisory firm located, as I mentioned, in Akron, Ohio. So Dan, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and sharing a little bit of information about you.
Sure. So to answer the first question, I am not a fan of Penn State. As an Ohio State alumnus, I just want to put that out there. No, so I am in Akron, Ohio. I'm a CFP. I've had my own firm for about 2.5 years now. Started 2006. So financial advising is a second career for me. I used to do local government management, made a change, worked at Merrill Lynch for 5 years, worked for a small independent firm connected to a BD for 5 years. But then about 2.5 years ago, I launched my own RIA. And part of the reason I launched it is because I just felt the old firm was not doing enough on the marketing side. And I thought there's a lot of potential out there. So one of the things that I found very quickly that's been the most productive and effective for me is marketing digitally. Samantha asked me, said, hey, do you know anyone who, or I think I answered a question when you posted it, said, do you know anyone who's had success? And I said, yeah, I have. So happy to answer any questions today, give you any kind of feedback. I'll tell you right now, nothing I'm doing is a secret, and it's stuff that if I can do it, anybody can do it. So.
Yeah, Dan has said that to me multiple times as we've talked about this presentation today, everyone, that he kept saying, nothing I'm doing is a secret. But I think what he's done great is actually executed all of those tips and strategies that you all are told all of the time, right? So we're really going to, instead of doing this as a full presentation where we're just talking at you, we're really going to do it more as a conversation. So what we're going to go over today is some best practices, 5 digital marketing best practices that we've all been, talking about for a long time in this community. Any of you who've joined other webinars, read our blog posts, talked to anyone who is a marketing expert for financial advisors, I'm sure have been told these things. But instead of just talking about them, we're going to actually dig into what Dan is doing to accomplish these different areas. So it's going to be really interesting. Hopefully it'll be a lot less of me speaking and more of you learning from a fellow advisor. So the first thing we're going to start off with is email marketing. Oh, and I should mention at the end of every section, we'll also share some of the tech tools that Dan is using to accomplish, his goals within that section. And then we'll round up all the tech tools and share them at the end as well. So I know that's always a big question is what specific tools are you using? So we'll make sure that we include that here as well. So again, the first one that we want to talk about is email marketing. I love this stat from a Weber. I don't know if any of you use that email service provider. It's similar to like a MailChimp, but that 1/3 of customers perceive to receive communication from brands via email over other channels. And so here are all of the things, right, we're always being told that we need to do. You got to segment your lists so that you're not just sending one email to everyone. You need to only be sending relevant content to those folks who are on your list. You want to be personable and add value. Send information is going to be important to the people on that particular list, and then measure your performance and refine based on what your information tells you, what is being successful or not. So I'm really excited to talk with you guys and have Dan share about how he is accomplishing this. But before we get to that, I just wanted to show this stat. We actually showed this in our email marketing webinar last month for any of you who are on that. It's on our blog. You can check it out, the recording. So that whole entire webinar is about email marketing if you want to dig in there deeper. But this is from MailChimp, and this shows some industry averages on open and click rates. And so for business and finance as a whole, this includes banks and, large financial institutions as well, though. The open rate is 20%, and the click-through rate is about 2.5%. This is a lot lower than what we typically see advisors themselves sending and what their rates would be. So for Dan, and he will get into this in the next slide, but he shared with me and Amanda a couple of days ago that for his warm leads list, it's about 25% open rate. And for the emails he sends to clients only weekly, those are about a 50% open rate. So much, much higher than what you would typically see here. So Dan, let's talk a little bit about your own email marketing strategy. Can you tell us first a little bit about the 3 different types of lists that you have?
Sure. So I'll kind of start with numbers 2 and 3. I have 2 primary lists. I shouldn't call it primary since one is titled primary, but I have the warm lead list, which is titled primary list. And then I have LinkedIn. And yes, I probably violated all the LinkedIn rules, but I took a lot of my contacts, or I took all my contacts, threw them into my MailChimp program. It has the unsubscribe option, so people can unsubscribe. But we're all in sales, and I think we're all big boys and girls that can handle it. I know I get through a lot of my LinkedIn connections, I end up on their email list. But with those 2 lists, they each get 2 emails from me every week. Tuesday is something that I write myself, and then Thursday, well, I also write it, but Thursday I share articles. So I find articles of interest. It's everything from how do you handle your email when you come back from vacation, to here are some good Social Security tips, to here's a good way to get a discount when you're traveling or booking a vacation, whatever it may be. I also throw in music videos. You know what? I find old videos, I find new videos, I just link it, and every once in a while I'll get a comment back from someone that says, this reminds me of high school, this reminds me of grade school, whatever it may be. But that goes, so on Tuesdays and Thursdays, those go out to list number 2 and number 3. The opening for primary is about 25%. For the LinkedIn list, it's about 10%, so a lot smaller. The primary, and for someone who goes to my website and they see, if you go to my website, you'll see there's a call to action that pops up. If they sign up to download that thing, they end up on my warm lead list. So that's understandable why that's a lot higher. Also then with the client only list, so my clients get those same emails on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They also receive from me on Wednesday market commentary. So it's something that I write, goes out to them every week. That has an opening rate of around 50%. Sat down with the client yesterday. He's like, oh, I didn't even know I was supposed to open those. Now, he's a brand new client, but at the same time, some of my clients open it and they share it, but other times, other people they don't bother.
And can you talk a little bit about, I think this is really interesting, the way you've divided it. And, you've, for instance, noticed like the music video, sometimes people will bring that up. Have you noticed any sort of trends between what people might bring up to you in a client meeting or actually take a minute to respond back to? Is it typically some of those weird offbeat, like informal type of content, or is it more related to actual financial planning content you're sending them, or is it both?
It's almost never anything related directly to investments.
Okay.
Which is interesting. No one really cares that the S&P went up 0.5%. They don't care. At least this has been my experience. But they're interested in that if I send them something that says, here are tips so that if you're in retirement, you can stay busy. I had somebody send me an email and said, hey, can you send me, because I made a reference in one article about if you want more information from my research, just shoot me an email. Someone sent me an email and said, hey, I want those other articles. I retired early and I'm bored out of my mind. And that was something I never expected. And then other times it will be something as simple as, well, not as simple, but what was it, a year ago with the Equifax breach? I sent that out and I had so many people respond and said, thank you for the tips. I'm sharing this with my friends. I'm sharing it with my family. I'm sharing it with my clients, all that good stuff. So, but I've never had anyone send me an email that if I send it, because when I started this, I was doing the typical thing that I was taught of, well, clients want to know about what did the Dow do this week? What did the S&P do this week? No one ever responded to those. Once I started getting personal and started taking a position and started giving my opinion on certain topics, then all of a sudden open rates went up, share rates went up, and I was getting commentary back from people.
Great. So a follow-up kind of point on that, because I think those are all really great, tips and strategies. Can you talk a little bit about how you actually format those emails?
Do you mean how do I come up with the ideas, or how do I physically?
You're using MailChimp, correct?
Yeah. So
yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, can you just talk a little bit, do you use MailChimp's pre-made templates and just pop your content in?
I created a template probably 2 years ago on MailChimp. So I have a nice banner with, that has my photo on it, and I think it has my motto or whatever it is. So that's the header of the email. So I had a buddy who did some graphic design work when I first launched, and he created that for me. So I plugged that right into, it's on my LinkedIn page, it's on my Facebook page. I plugged it right into MailChimp. And then what I do is I just reuse that thing every time. I just take the old copy out, paste the new copy in.
Got it. Okay, great. Yeah, we found MailChimp to be really user-friendly as well. It's the #1 tool we recommend to everyone. If you're not using MailChimp already and you have a 20 over 10 website, there is a one-click integration with it. So you literally just go to the integrations tab and put in your username and password, and it will connect to your website so that all of your leads will get populated into your MailChimp directly as well. So that is an option. So this is great. I'm sure people will have more questions about how you're doing email marketing, and we can always take those at the end. But I want to keep going because I know we have a lot of info to cover. So we're going to move on to blogging, which Dan already mentioned that he is sending some of his blog content in those emails that he's sending every week, right? We know that blogging is one of the #1 best and most cost-effective things that you can do to increase the number of people that are becoming aware of who you are, landing on your website, seeing you as an expert, and it's also giving you something to talk about on social channels, right? So these, again, are some tips, and we're going to then dive into how Dan's actually making it happen. A couple things to think about is when you're coming up with your topics or thinking about what to title your blog post, the more you can use either how-to formatting or question formats, the better. So I think I pulled up an example here. Yeah, do I need a fiduciary? This is from Dan's own blog on his Forward Thinking Wealth Management website. Will Social Security run out? So anytime you can format it as a question, that's always better. Or a how to use your HSA as a tax strategy. That would be another example. #1, it's going to be better for your SEO. We know that people are more likely to search in that question or a how-to way, as well as voice search now is becoming more and more popular, and people tend to talk at their phone or their device in more of a question formatting than a statement formatting. Additionally, we know when we share these articles then on social media, whenever we have either that question or that how-to formatting, we're much more likely to get more clicks on those types of posts. So keep that in mind when you're formatting it. And then when you're also thinking about what kinds of things you should be blogging about, I think Dan gave a couple different ideas just in terms of what he's sharing in emails, but think about those micro moments, as Dan referred to them with me earlier this week, right? So if a lot of people are talking about Brexit or are talking about the Equifax breach, or, everybody's wondering how different tariffs are going to affect certain parts of the industry, and maybe you have a lot of clients in one of those industries, you can write up a quick blog post about that, and it will always become really popular on social because that's what other people are talking about as well. Another thing you can do is to take something that you've read about. So maybe you read a Washington Post article about a certain, topic. And then you can link to that article and say, I recently read over the weekend this article, and write up 2 or 3 paragraphs with your take on it, or like a reply to it. So that way you're not having to start all the way from scratch creating that blog post, which I know can be super time consuming, but you're still getting fresh and dynamic content out there. The crazy thing about people who blog versus people who don't blog, we'll get into this in a minute when we talk about SEO, but websites that have blog content that's shared regularly have 434% more search engine indexed pages. So let me say that again. If you blog on your website will have, on average, this is like across everybody who blogs versus doesn't blog, 434% more pages that have been indexed by search engines, right? Because every time you create a blog post, it becomes its own page on your website. So here is Dan's website. This is that little call to action we talked about a minute ago, where he has, sign up for a free copy of the Baker's Dozen Tips for a Better Retirement. You could put your email address in here and get that freemium. But then when you come, into his insights page here, every single one of these posts becomes its own page on his website, right? So it has its own independent URL. That is super important from an SEO perspective of making the search engines realize that your site is dynamic and up to date and being updated regularly. And Google will want to display that website much more than other websites. Additionally, when a client lands on that page, you can, you're sending them to that independent link. You'll have a lot more insight when you look at your analytics of which posts are the most popular, which ones are getting read the most, which pages people are staying on the longest. So blogging just gives you so much more information too about what types of content people are interested in. Okay, enough from me on kind of the marketer's take on it. Let's hear from Dan again. A little bit more about his own blogging strategy. So here are some of the points, Dan, I just wanted for us to go over. Let's start with, how often are you blogging?
I guess I would say I blog 4 times a month, or 5, depending, once a week. So the Tuesday one, I consider my blog post. So that is what goes out to the email, to the people that are subscribed to my email list, but it also goes onto my website then. The stuff I send out on Wednesday and Thursday, I do not upload that anywhere. However, some of the articles I'll throw onto LinkedIn and to Twitter.
Okay. And are you writing these posts yourself?
Oh, yes. Yes,
okay.
I am. And I think that's important because people will be able to tell very quickly if you're writing it, if it's a person writing it, or if it's, hey, we see this as something that's been generated by a computer. But I started doing it years ago because it helped me stay current on what was going on in the market. And then it just extended beyond that to other topics. Because like I said, my clients, at least, they like to know that I know about things other than just what the market has done. So it forces me to stay active and stay current.
Sure. So talk to us a little bit about where you get, your ideas for content. Do you kind of have like a running list that you keep on a spreadsheet somewhere, or how do you tackle that?
So I have a board in my office, just so I can see it constantly, where I'm always keeping a list of things that I want to write about. But, the ideas are things I've stolen from other advisors. Not stolen, I don't rewrite their articles or just copy and paste. Although somebody did that to Josh Brown, if anybody out there knows Josh Brown. I guess they did that about a year ago, and they were taking his articles and just sending it out to their own clients like they had written themselves.
Oh, no.
Don't do that.
No, don't do that.
Because he called the person out on Twitter. But I subscribe to a lot of other bloggers. The Rithold group, they're great. Barry, Ben, Michael, Josh. They all have I don't know how they put out stuff daily, but they always have great things. And then, I get emails from the Financial Planning Association, Invest News, all those things. And every once in a while, I'll just see an article or a topic. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I should write about it. Or other times, like the one I sent out yesterday, I guess today's Wednesday. was useless bits of information. It was just a bunch of weird facts that I came across recently. Everything from what is the price of a personal computer now versus 1980, to also then the fact that Tom Cruise was younger, 5 years younger than Wilford Brimley when Wilford Brimley did Cocoon and Tom Cruise just did his most recent Mission Impossible. Part of that is, some of my clients are vary in age ranges, but I have a lot of clients who can say, I remember when I bought my first personal computer and it cost me $3,000. And now, 25 years later, or 30 years later, my phone is 10 times more powerful than that thing. So it's something that resonates with them. I didn't think that'd be that interesting, but it got a ton of shares and a ton of opens from a few people who receive it. So anyway, I'm taking ideas wherever I can find them, and I think it's interesting. I write about it. It may get opened, it may not, but I'm also trying to take the approach of doing things other than just, again, the typical format of, hey, here's what the market's done.
Sure. Somebody, just as a follow-up to that, was saying the sound got a little fuzzy for them, and they were asking if you could share again the names of the people that you mentioned that were blogging daily. I know you said Josh Brown from the Reform Broker, but was it the Rithold Group?
Yeah, I think it's, I always get this wrong, Ritholz Group. That's who Josh Brown, Ben Carlson, Michael Batnick, Barry Ritholtz, they all worked there.
Okay.
So, Ben Carlson, A Wealth of Common Sense was a book he wrote years ago. But if you go, you can find them on Twitter, but they put out a ton of great content, and they're putting it out every day. And the nice thing is you can tell with them who's writing what, because it does reflect their personalities.
Sure. Yeah, and I would say, in terms of just strategy, one of the things I think a lot of people get a little maybe frustrated by is they don't always see results right away, right? So they start blogging and nothing happens. They don't get any clients from it, at least not initially. I can't stress enough the importance that this does take a little bit of time. You can even, you might get lucky and get something right off the bat, but it takes a little bit of time for your site to start being noticed as something that's being updated more regularly and get raised in the search results. And it also takes time to build up, different backlinks. Maybe you start getting asked by other people to provide content for their own blog, like a center of influence. It might be another CPA or another advisor who doesn't serve the same group that you serve, whatever it may be. For our own blog here at 20 over 10, we started it 3 years ago, and we were blogging twice a week. And then we increased it to one post every day, starting last year, probably 18 months ago now. And for the last 18 months, we've blogged every day, and we have seen a huge increase in leads coming from that inbound marketing, huge. So, give it a little bit of time. And so on that point, Dan, how long did it take for you to start seeing maybe some results just overall from deploying all of these strategies? I know it's probably hard to just say blogging alone, but when did you start to see and notice that you were getting clients from it?
I would say it took about 1.5 years.
18 months, okay.
So be aware that the first year, I don't know if you really want to count it, because that was when I was still at my old firm under a broker-dealer.
Okay.
And everything I wrote, I had to have them approve it, so it falls into the compliance. And I literally had a yelling match with one of my compliance officers because he would not let me put the words mutual and fund in a blog. I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, you're not allowed to do it. I'm like, what are you, why? So those old blogs, they really weren't, they were always really, they were legaled up or legal down, whatever way you want to consider it, because they were neutered by compliance. Now, when I went RIA, obviously it's a different compliance structure, but I'm not making recommendations. I'm not doing things like saying the word guarantee or that I'm an expert or follow the strategy. It's nothing like that, but I do have a little more flexibility. But it was probably 6 months before I started seeing traction. And I think I know where I really saw the first bit of traction. I saw something on LinkedIn. It was Simon Sinek, the Start With Why. Mm-hmm. I wrote a blog on my why. And I just laid it out there. And all of a sudden I had emails from two people who I had thrown in from my LinkedIn contacts in the MailChimp. They're like, we want to talk. I'm like, we like your philosophy. We like your approach. You explained to us about you personally. Let's have a meeting. So
Great.
I'm not saying they've been reading my stuff for months, but at that point, they were able to see something a little more personal.
So just kind of taking it one step further, because then I know we need to move on to SEO, but can you talk a little bit about, you've talked about making it personable, and you've kind of taken the next step from there and have, added a section to your website with just videos. So you started doing videos. Can you talk a little bit about these videos that you've created and how that works and what you typically talk about and things like that?
Yeah, so I'm playing around a bit with videos, because there are so many people that now they won't even spend 3 minutes to read a 500-word article. So if I can do a video in 2 minutes, I'm doing that, and whether the topic, I think the one that I've had open the most is I wrote about the mega backdoor Roth IRA. Mm-hmm. I stole that topic, and I give them credit. I stole it from White Coat Investor, and I did a video on that. And the nice thing is I happen to have film production in my house. He's my older son. He's the head of his film crew at his high school. So he helped me do the videos. He edits them. I pay him. He has his own little business now of Red Shirt Productions. But it's something where people are opening and sharing that. And again, like you said, I'm now starting to play around with the titles, because people are searching by question. Whether they're talking to Alexa or whether they're just going onto YouTube, which is supposedly the second most popular search engine now.
Yes.
They're going ahead and doing it by question, not necessarily just typing in Social Security or Brexit or whatever that may be. And I'm also playing around a little bit with doing I use Loom, Loom, to record videos. Now, as a wrap-up summary for a client meeting, I'll do a little Google slide. So basically a stripped down PowerPoint. Say, here are the things that we covered at the meeting, Mr. and Mrs. Client. Here are the things that are on the to-do list. Here's your homework. Here's my homework. I record it as a quick video and I email it to them. So they all of a sudden now have a video from me. Again, I stole that idea from a couple of other advisors that are doing it that way. I'm also doing videos. If somebody reaches out to me and says, hey, I want to schedule some time to talk, whether they're doing it through my Calendly or they just send me an email straight out, same thing. I've been playing around with, hey, Joe, hey, Jane, thanks for reaching out. Nice to meet you. I look forward to talking. Here's a link to my calendar. Go ahead and schedule some time. 30-second video, they're going to open that thing.
That's awesome. You're the first advisor I've ever heard of who's doing that. So that's really, really great. So, okay, so we talked about you're using Loom. From a compliance perspective, and we've gotten a couple questions about this, and I'll just say, since Dan is an RIA, he's obviously not going through a broker-dealer. Dan, do you have anything? So in terms of his website and blog, everyone, he is using 20/10. So I've actually pulled up our back end just in case, for those of you who aren't on it, this is a demo account. You have in your site archives all of your archived content, which includes blogs. The videos that would be posted to your website with us would be, it would show that they're there, but we can't archive the content, obviously, because it's not being listed. But if you were to put the transcription of what the video says on the website, then that would be archived. Dan, talk a little bit. Do you do anything like to archive those videos in any other manner through like YouTube, or do you have like a transcription, or do you just save them somewhere else?
So I follow the Gary Vaynerchuk, and probably everybody knows who he is. And if you don't, go out and Google him. The philosophy of, so all those videos, they came basically from something I wrote. It was a blog post. I pretty much just read the blog post into the video. And then I throw the videos, once they're done, I have the hard copy saved on my computer. I've got a backup copy, but then also I throw it onto YouTube. So it's all stored in multiple locations, but at a minimum, I have the original text or script in that blog post.
Got it. So that, yeah, as long as you have the written part down. And the other nice thing about having the written part somewhere like on your website, so you're going to get it archived then, but additionally, you get all of those search terms also helping your SEO because Google can't transcribe it, as a part of search. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on. We'll keep going and talk about SEO here for a minute, and we can come back to some more questions about software and things like that. So we talked a little bit about SEO. Here are just some basic things that everyone should be doing. You want to make sure that the keywords are in the right places on your site. So if you're not sure where those are, you can always go to our blog and look for tutorials or engage with us to ask questions. But most important are going to be the headers. So the H1, the H2 tags. And what we mean by that is the place on your websites where the text is bigger and bolded. Those are headers. You also want to blog, as we've already talked about, and why. And then you really want to make sure that you've optimized all of Google's G Suite products. So Google My Business, Search Console, any of the tools that they provide you that can help you tell Google what your business is about and make it easier for prospective clients to find you online. You want to take advantage of that. So Dan actually worked with our firm on a SEO package that we offer to, even try to go to the next level with his own SEO. And we have some of the results here. You can just kind of see, this is from Google Search Console. So for those of you that don't have it set up, it's free through your Gmail account. You set it up, you just want to make sure it's linked to the email that is linked to your domain name, right? So if it was Samantha@20over10.com, I would want to make sure that email that's linked to 20over10.com is the one I use when I'm setting up my Search Console. And then you can actually see within Search Console which terms people are searching that get them to land on your website, and how many times people are clicking on them. So we see like the number of clicks, the number of impressions, and then what we call the click-through rate. Those are those three columns. And so as you can get a sense of here, one of the things that sets Dan's service apart from other advisors is that he has a very fixed flat fee that he offers. And so for that search term, which is great too because he can service clients anywhere in the United States, we saw a big increase and jump, in how he was performing. So Dan, do you want to talk a little bit about, that demographic and the way that your fee is structured, and then, just SEO in general, things you've learned or that have been helpful?
Yeah, probably the most important thing is I realize that I don't understand SEO really at all. And to me, it's like anything else. You find the person who is an expert with it and you engage them to help you do that. So when 20 over 10 offered it, I jumped on it. I'm like, hey, can I do this? I don't care if I'm your first person or what, but I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and spend the money to do it to see if I can increase my reach, because I am set up virtually. I'm in Akron, Ohio. Probably about half of my clients I've never met, I will never meet. They don't live anywhere around me, but there are people that are finding me online now. And after we upgraded or we went through the SEO work, all of a sudden I had a few people that came to me and said, hey, you were the number one when I Googled flat fee financial advisors. You came up first. I'm like, that's awesome. I'd go to Google and try and do the search myself and I wouldn't show up. So I don't know what they were doing, but maybe I was catching it on the wrong day. But
well, no, I can explain that actually really quick because this is a good question we get asked a lot. So every Google search, you have to think of it as not being this, like what your results are going to be, Dan, based in Akron, are going to be very different than my results based in Pennsylvania. But not only location-based, but your prior search history. So people don't really remember because most people weren't using the internet, but when the internet was first sort of formed, before there was such a thing as Google, when you wanted to find something online, the results you would get would be pretty terrible. There was, no algorithm that was going to understand immediately what it is you were looking for. So the fact that everybody sitting on this call are financial advisors, and you've you've probably read articles on other financial content providers, like maybe like an Investopedia, you've went to your own website many, many times. Those are all going to really dictate the way that the results are shown. And if you, for instance, Google yourself or Google a search term like Dallas, Texas financial planner, and your result is number 5, and you search it every day to see where you're ranking, and you never click on your website, that actually is going to push your website result potentially a little bit lower, because what Google thinks is, I keep showing them this one website as a possible result, and this person is never clicking on it, so it must not be what they're looking for. That happens to people all the time. So you really don't want to ever use your own just Google search as a barometer for success. What you want to do is go to a tool. There's a really easy one that you can use, a SERPs tool. Amanda can link to it in our chat box. That is free, where you can do a search and see how you're actually ranking for different search terms, and you can do it by location as well. So that's why you weren't getting the same results as those prospects, Dan, is that every single person on the planet, every IP address is going to have, a little bit of a different nuance when it comes to the search results.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So for everybody out there that searches their company all the time and then never clicks on your website, stop doing that right now. That's a bad thing to do. So we worked with Dan to set up his Google My Business, to set up Google Search Console. I'm glad to hear that, you got some people telling you that you were coming up right away. Somebody asked this question. I think maybe now's a good time. A lot of times people are nervous or hesitant, right, to even try to get clients through just straight digital marketing, because they think that the quality of the client that they're going to get is going to be nowhere near as good as if they just had a straight referral from an existing client. So can you talk a little bit about that, Dan, like what you've seen in terms of, how much money people have, the assets they bring to the table, or just like the quality of leads you're getting in general?
Sure. For my clients who actually have investable assets, and I segment my clients, but those who have investable assets, the average is $2 million. I have clients who, they've got $1 million here, or $5 million there, or $2 million there, whatever it may be. Then I also have the clients, because I work with a lot of young medical professionals. I have a lot of young physicians, young dentists who are just out of school, just practicing. They don't have any assets yet, but they're like, I know I need to get off on the right foot. The other part of doing this virtually, I set it up kind of selfishly. My office is in my house. On a nice day, I'll sit on my back deck and I'll be on phone calls and go-to meetings and whatnot. But I've also found that for my clients, a lot of them, they're just like, you know what, I want to do this meeting. I want to do it quickly. I don't have a half a day. I can take off work. I'm not using up vacation time. But if we can do a half an hour go-to meeting or an hour go-to meeting, fine. We do it that way. I use ShareFile to share documents. I use DocuSign to sign things when there's paperwork, all that good stuff, as well as, the good old go-to meeting. And it's interesting. I have one client. She was one that I was pulled in through LinkedIn. I met her once at a networking event years ago. And it was after the election. She panicked. She moved everything to cash. And she was on my email list, and she eventually emailed me, and she's like, we need to sit down and talk. Anyway, she physically is my closest client. She lives 10 minutes away. I told her, hey, we're going to sit down, do one of our semi-annual reviews. She's like, okay. I showed up at her house, and she's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, we're doing our 6-month review. She's like, no. Everything we're going to do is on go-to meeting. And she's a sales professional. She's like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to clean my house and be ready for you and all that good stuff. Just, we're doing it all virtually. I want to get in and get out in a half an hour. I'm like, okay.
Right.
But I like that. Some people prefer to meet face to face. That's fine. I have some clients, I know I can hear them typing away in the background. I'm okay with that. That's not a problem.
The fact that you were in your house, and this brings up another question, and I know we talked about it, Amanda and I talked about it, but I don't know, Amanda, if you can unmute yourself or not. I can always kind of speak to it, but somebody asked the question of how do you handle your home address when you're wanting to be found and setting up like Google My Business, because it is a little bit tricky if you don't want to just list it. But there is a way that you can mask the physical address and just show like the city location when you're setting up Google My Business. So that's what we did for Dan. Amanda's just answering that right now in the chat. So thank you, Amanda. But it is possible to still set up Google My Business, even if you have a home address, if you want that to be listed. Well, great. So let's move on to some other elements of the website. Mike Palazzo just shared, and I think this is exactly what you were saying, Dan. He was saying that he finds the leads that find him through his website are often much better fits than his client referrals, because the people that find him via their own research actually understand, how he works. So they've taken the time to read about it and understand it. So that's not the first person who I've heard say that either. And for all of those of you, you could go to Dan's website and check it out, the Forward Thinking Wealth Management website. You'll see the other thing I think you do great, Dan, is actually just put your fees right out there. We do still have some advisors we work with who don't want to explain how much they'll be charging their clients. And I think that also really helps to eliminate the whole idea of would somebody be a good fit or not, because they're going to be able to see right away what the cost is.
Yeah, and if you sign up for my email, the blog post I'm sending out next week, it's a little more aggressive than my normal ones. It's talking about who my ideal client is. But I lay it out there, and I think to that other person's comment, that's the approach I take with my emails, that's the approach I take with my website. I'd rather let people visit me, and they can qualify or disqualify themselves immediately, as opposed to scheduling some time, and then I found out they can't afford my fee, they're not a good fit. I'd rather do that way, and then instead of spending 6 hours a day going through a bunch of meetings that may make no sense.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about when somebody does come to your website and they, sign up, they fill out that pop-up box that we talked about, and they get on your email list. Do you have a set email that you send them initially to like welcome them, or is it just that they join the email list, they get that baker's dozen tips for retirement, and then they get started on the weekly emails like everyone else?
Is exactly that. They get the baker's dozen, and then they just go right into the mix.
Great. Okay. So can you talk a little bit about, how many people, since you've instituted that pop-up, how many signups or like a ballpark have you got?
I'm probably averaging, when I started the pop-up and really saw the SEO starting to work, I'm probably averaging one sign up a day now.
Oh, great.
Before, I think it was probably one a week.
That's fantastic. Before you did the SEO optimization.
Right.
Okay. So with your, your website, you have that baker's dozen tips. We talked about how many people are getting in touch with you there, so they're getting added. Have you any sense of the people that get added and sign up versus those that, I know it's probably hard to quantify, or maybe it isn't, but the people that then eventually like actually have a conversation with you and want to become a prospect, are there people that you drip on for a while and then they get in touch, or is it usually like if they are interested, they're letting you know right away and just booking a meeting?
It seems like I get people who sign up for the email, and then after they read the baker's dozen and have wandered around my website, then they usually schedule a meeting with me.
Okay.
But I'll get other things. I think I have a new client coming on board. Her son was someone who signed up for my list, and I think said, "Mom, you need to talk to this guy. Mom, you need to talk to this guy."
Oh, wow.
And she signed up for it, and I think as soon as she signed up for it, she also sent me an email and said, "We need to talk." But I would say probably I get quite a few people who are probably just like me. There are other advisors who are signing up for my stuff, and they're just getting the download and then they unsubscribe, which is fine. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to be a client of Ben Carlson's, but I signed up for his email because I
Sure.
love his stuff.
Yeah, it's a form of flattery for sure. What about, so you have this scheduled introductory meeting on here, and we talk about Calendly a lot, or Schedule Once, or Time Trade, and should you put that right on your website and make it easy for people to schedule a meeting with you? Do you find that you ever are like, I wish I didn't have that on there because I'm getting, spam, like salespeople or anything like that? Or tell us a little bit about that, because I know some people sometimes get a little nervous about making their calendar so accessible.
I think I've had that on there since I launched, so like 2.5 years ago. I've had one sales guy
Okay.
try and schedule a call with me. That was it. Otherwise, it's always been someone who is interested in being a client. And I'll tell you, when I first started it, it was just bizarre. You go to bed and you wake up and you're like, oh crap, I have a call at 8:30. Someone scheduled this at midnight. But that's the other big part of why I do all this stuff online. It's the evergreen philosophy of marketing. I can't there aren't enough networking events for me to go to reach the number of people that I can reach in one email post. And it's there at 3 a.m. when somebody can't sleep and they're worrying about whatever, whether it's a doc who's just finishing up residency, or it's someone who says, I'm freaking out because I didn't like who was elected president and I made a bad decision with my investments. I need to find somebody. I'm never going to come across those people at that time. But if I have my website up and running, if I have blog posts that are constantly dripping on them, and if they have a Calendly feature that pops up right in front of them, it makes it so easy. You just have to make it easy.
I agree. And I think, in this industry, especially like late at night is when people are sitting there worrying about money and making the right decisions. And I've heard from so many advisors that is when people book on their calendars, is late at night. So if you haven't tried out one of these calendar features and embedding it in your website, I really encourage you guys all to give it a shot. Our salespeople here it's the same thing. They will say people just, book on their calendars, and they love being able to go to bed and wake up in the morning and have those meetings booked for them. So I know we're running up close on the top of the hour, so we'll just briefly go through social media, and then we'll go through all of the tech tips. I just wanted you to talk a little bit about LinkedIn and how you use that. I know that's where you're the most active. So I just checked right before we started, Dan, and I saw you're up to 2,865 followers on LinkedIn. So tell us a little bit about how you connect with people. Are you going and finding people and asking for them to connect with you? What's your strategy there?
Yeah, I'm mostly reaching out. I use a program called Social Lead Sniper. I just started using it a couple months ago, and I'm on whatever the LinkedIn professional, so I can search for physicians. I have a lot of clients who have equity compensation questions. So, and Northeast Ohio, like everybody has Fortune 500 publicly traded company around them. I have a lot of clients who have, they have a company stock, whether it's restricted stock, employee stock purchase plan, whatever it is. I can search for those companies through there, and then I just load up those contacts into Social Lead Sniper, and let that run in the background every day. But LinkedIn is a social media platform that I like the most. I personally hate Facebook. I'm on there, but it's just more of, I have to be there, so I'm on there. I'm on Twitter, but I'm more of a reader, so a stalker, whatever you want to call it. But that's where I see a lot of really good articles too. And I don't engage with anybody for the most part. If anything, you'll see me like something or share something. Every once in a while, I'll make a comment, but it's a good place for me to gather information and get ideas. But if I'm actually trying to contact someone, it's through LinkedIn.
So can you tell me the name of what was something Social Lead Sniper? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, Social Lead Sniper.
Okay, I'll put that in the chat box here. And then, you know what? I've never heard of that before, so we'll have to take a look at it. I'll have my team write up a blog post about it and get that out there for everyone. That sounds like a great tool. How much time would you say you're spending on social media every week or every day, however you want to break it down?
Hanging out on social media or?
Intentional time spent, you know, like looking for prospects or connecting with people or posting content?
Maybe an hour.
Okay. And you're using Buffer to sort of preload some of that?
Yeah, and I'm playing around with that now because I was doing the pay for Buffer and, you know, loading up 3 articles, posting 3 articles a day to the various platforms. But something I read online said, hey, the algorithms have changed on LinkedIn. So I've started just saying, all right, I'm going back to the basic Buffer, post 1 thing a day, and then I'm putting on my own personal stuff. So if I find an article I think is interesting, I load it up directly. Or like the fact about a PC is now 0.1% of the price that it was in 1980. I put that factoid out there. Or that, what was it, like the top, or yeah, like 72% of the S&P year-to-date performance was by 3 stocks. What I'm seeing, the trend I'm seeing is that the stuff that I'm putting on there manually is getting a lot more views and likes than the stuff that's going in there automatically through a Buffer app type program.
So just for anybody who asks, Buffer is just a social media scheduling app. So there's Hootsuite, there's Buffer, there's lots of different ones you can use. And it allows you to pre-load posts up so that you don't have to actively be posting every day in like the LinkedIn app or Facebook app. So that would be a use case. This is a new trend too with LinkedIn. If you post something and you don't have a link to it, so if you record a video directly within LinkedIn's app and post it, or you just post some stats and you don't have any links to anything, there's basically the way their algorithm works right now. It will boost those posts higher up, so you'll get way more eyeballs on it, you'll notice. So you can keep that in mind too. Like if you just have a little stat or a quote and you post it directly in the app without linking to a URL, you'll notice you'll get a lot more people being able to view it than if you have a link connected to it. So let's go into some of your final tips and tech recommendations. We listed here a bunch of the different ones that we covered today. Dan is also using his CRM as Wealthbox. What would you say are some of like the can't live without things you're doing right now?
Calendly, definitely can't live without that. I'm trying to figure out, I've been talking to Amanda about, I need to streamline my website, and something she pointed out was, you know, there are not a lot, but there are websites out there where Calendly is, I don't know if it's a pop-up, but it's always just right up front and center. So it basically never leaves that person's page. MailChimp, can't do without MailChimp. I mean, I know there are other programs, there's Constant Contact and whatnot, but any of those programs, I'm just used to MailChimp.
MailChimp would be our number 1 recommendation too for anyone out there looking for a new one, because Constant Contact doesn't have an RSS feed feature. So that's why we would suggest MailChimp over the others.
Yeah. Loom, I'm really liking Loom, especially there's no cost for it at this point. They will roll out a charge. I don't know when that will be. I don't know what it will cost. But like MailChimp, I mean, my MailChimp's $25 a month. Mm-hmm. If I can send out, you know, thousands of emails, I'm going to do that. And if I spend $25 or $50 a month so I can record a bunch of videos easily and share them with either on LinkedIn or with clients, I'm going to do that. Then obviously you guys, I mean, it's going to sound like brown nosing and butt kissing, but you guys always have a lot of good content with your blogs, and the SEO work that Amanda did was phenomenal. So.
Yep, this is just a quick plug for our blog. If you're not actively reading it, you can subscribe and we'll just send you the best articles every 2 weeks. And that is a great way to just stay on top of trends, what you should be thinking about, and how you can, you know, have best digital marketing practices as well. For those, I saw a couple questions come in about like integrations and things. Yes, there is a way with Calendly, we can integrate it directly in your website so that it is a little pop-up that hovers in the lower right-hand corner. That's not a problem. So Dan will definitely get that done for you so it doesn't launch in a new window. Somebody asked about like, integrating Riskalyze, yes, we can make it so that, again, it's also like a pop-up overlay on the website if you're using Riskalyze, or eMoney has a new lead gen feature where you click it and it will ask the person to, answer some questions, and then it gives them a quick little financial planning tidbit and then pops them into your eMoney dashboard. So any of the different tools that you guys are using to connect with prospects, there's typically a way that we can make it work really seamlessly with your website. So if you're a 20 over 10 user, please reach out to us via support, and we can get that done for you. If you're not a 20 over 10 user, then you should think about switching, because it will make it easy.
Well, let me add in also, like, I've pulled out some tips from videos that you've done on LinkedIn.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So follow you guys there as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to put my, let's see if it's in here. Yes, so my LinkedIn profile is right there too. I try to share little videos, like quick 1-2 minute videos weekly, with tidbits for like how to improve your site's SEO, or new tools that we've heard about that you can think about using, or webinars we have coming up. So thanks for that plug. Yeah, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. And then if you have like a quick one-off question, like, hey, I was thinking about doing this on my website, or I'm trying to decide between these two photos, people will send me those kinds of questions all the time. And if it can take me less than a minute to answer, I am more than happy to do that. I love connecting with all of the advisors in this community. So feel free to do that as well. So overall, Dan, how much time would you say you're spending? I know it's hard to quantify, but somebody asked, how much would you say you're spending on your digital marketing program from a time perspective, daily or weekly? You said an hour a day on social.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just hanging out on social.
Okay.
So I spend probably an hour a week writing my blog posts. And, whether it's the Monday or the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday one. So to me, that's a really good use of time. I would say, I would say average an hour a day for everything. Not a ton of time. What I've done, nice thing about being owning my own firm, I block off Mondays now. Monday is my marketing day. So I try and write if I can. If the writer's block isn't there, I'll write 3 or 4 blog posts and just have them ready if I'm having a good day. Or I'll record a few videos and load them up for my son to edit later on. When to me, it's important to have that time, because if you're not marketing and if you're not growing, you're not going to be in business forever. So you got to be aware of it. And the other part is, I'm an old guy. I mean, I'm 47. My kids say I'm a dinosaur.
That's not old.
I know, but if I can do it, anybody can do this stuff. And
I agree. It's not rocket science. It feels like it sometimes, but that's why we were so glad to have you join us today, because when you really distill it down, it's just getting it set up and then finding the time to commit to doing it a little bit every day or once a week. And then once you do that, you get into like your routine, like brushing your teeth and getting dressed every morning.
Yeah, and the other part with it is having it through a program like a MailChimp or posting it on LinkedIn. You can look at the data. We're all numbers people. You can see what's getting the opens, what's getting the shares. I was thinking about this morning. The first blog that I wrote that actually got people's attention was a few years ago. It was something about Pokemon Go, summer love, or is this something long-term? I got a bunch of emails from people about that because it was just different, but it was on everybody's, it was all of a sudden their stock popped and it was on everybody's mind because everybody was playing Pokemon Go, and I was like, all right, again, people like different things. So
right.
Play around with it, look at your numbers. You mentioned earlier about the micro moments. The one that had the most opens for me was the Equifax one. There are times that it's nice because I can get in there, wake up at 5 a.m, look at the markets and like, why is the market down so much? Oh, it's Brexit. I better write something very quickly, send it out so that it's waiting for them at their desk when they wander into their office at 8 or 9 a.m. But the Equifax one, I did the same approach. I thought my MailChimp had broken, was spamming this one guy because I looked at it and he had opened it like 300 times. And it was some CPA I was connected to on LinkedIn, never talked to the guy. I threw him in the thing. He never got out. And I emailed him and I said, hey, Joe, is there something wrong? Do you keep getting this? He's like, no, I'm just forwarding it to my clients. I have a lot of clients. And I looked and recently, and it's been opened over 1,000 times.
Wow.
Did I get any clients as a result of it? No, but I'm sure I had people sign up for my email, and it just keeps getting
going from there. Right.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So just to reiterate, everything you talked about today, I mean, you might have to pay a little bit for some of the tools, but this is all through organic, free marketing. It's not a paid search. You're not like buying Google AdWords.
No, I don't do anything like that. And the way I look at it, again, I could spend $25 a month on MailChimp, or I could spend $20 on a breakfast with a CPA who's never going to give me a referral. I've never had any luck getting referrals from CPAs and attorneys. Maybe someone else out there has the secrets, but I've never had any luck. I give out a lot of referrals. I just never get any back. So I'm terrible about that. But again, I can, instead of reaching one CPA, I can reach, thousands of people. And I'm available all times of the day because they can look at it at 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I know we're past the time, so please keep your questions coming and we can answer them offline via email. We had some questions asked about like integrations and kind of like the roadmap for our product. Yes, we do plan on having more one-click integrations with more CRMs and other products, but for the most part, if you are using a tool right now, if it's not a one-click integration option, you can email our support team and they can manually set the integration up. So just because we don't offer it as a one-click integration, which you can set up yourself, doesn't mean it's not possible. It just would take our team a little bit of tinkering to get it set up for you. I really want to thank Dan so much for taking the time to connect with us today and share your roadmap for how you found success, with your own digital marketing, and thank everyone for taking the time out of your afternoon to be with us here today. I've put up my LinkedIn profile as well as our marketing email. Amanda, that Dan kept mentioning, is our Associate Director of Marketing here at 20 over 10, and she manages our marketing email as well as our blog. So if you have an idea for a blog post you think we should write, or you want to ask her some questions about 20 over 10 or our services or anything like that, feel free to email us. We'll be happy to connect with you. And make sure you sign up for our blog, and you can get more emails about upcoming webinars that we have. Thank you again, Dan, so much for joining us today. And we're really excited to have you as part of the 20 over 10 family and helping to explain how everything works. So thank you.
Sure. And one last thought for everyone. Don't be afraid of it. My only tips are keep it personal. They want to know you. They want to know who you are as an advisor, as a planner, as a broker, whatever you are, and stay consistent with it. Just keep at it. Look at your numbers, and just, you'll all of a sudden you'll be like, hey, this makes sense. I get it. And don't be afraid to play with other things. I know guys who prefer to do podcasts. Do a podcast. If you want to do just videos, just do videos. But to me, it's a lot of very simple, easy stuff, and it's a great way to get your marketing message out there 24 hours a day.
Agreed. Okay, well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Talk to you soon, Dan. Bye-bye.